Hey everyone, I'm Moira La Plante, one half of J La Plante Photo, along with my husband Jesse. I want to talk to you today about my workflow in Fundy Designer and how I take the photos that we take on a wedding day and deliver in their gallery and turn them into works of art that the couple and their friends and family will treasure and enjoy for years to come. I actually started designing the album in Adobe Bridge. And the reason I do this is because Jesse and I tend to divide and conquer our workload. He takes care of all of the editing, which means that when he's finished with the images and we've delivered the gallery to our clients, then that's when my job starts to design the album. Because I have not been editing the photos and I haven't been entrenched in knowing what the photos are, I need to go through now and select the photos that I want for the album. So I just do this in Bridge. You can do this in Lightroom too. But the beauty of Funny Designer is that anything that you mark in Adobe Bridge or Lightroom, you can bring in those ratings into Funny Designer. So I just go through and any photo that I want in the album, I just give 4 stars. I kind of like that one. It's a little funky. And yeah. Oh, this is a really good one for the opening spread. I'm gonna keep that one. I also really like this. I love the texture on here. Okay, so once I've finished ranking all the photos, then we're done with Adobe Bridge. Then we're going to open up our project in Fundy Designer. All right, so I've already brought in all of the photos here, so you don't have to wait while they upload. And when I bring the photos into Fundy Designer, I do use the Intelligent Retouch. It just does a really great job of touching up any little blemishes or like wrinkles, skin things. And our clients love to see that in the album. While I already selected the photos that I want to start building the album with in Adobe Bridge, and you can see those star ratings came in with the photos. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do a little bit more selection here. So sometimes I open it up and I'll just go through all the images here if I didn't use Bridge and I can rank them, but I can also come over here and I can select, I can hit P to select panorama, and you can see that when I hit that button, it puts this little panorama down here and it highlights panorama here. And all that's doing is telling the auto designer that I want this photo to be on its own on a page. I can also do C to select something as the cover photo or M to select something as the main image. Because I've already gone through these at a high level, I'm actually just going to come through and look for my portraits and I'm going to make those favorites. So here we have this one. I'm going to have that as a favorite. And you can do that easily by just clicking or hitting the F button, or you can click this heart. But I find it to be really easy to use my keyboard. Just use the left and right keys. I can hit F to select or unselect it as a favorite. That's a good one. I really like the black and white one. So we're going to keep that. And then I like to come in and do this with the portraits because those are going to be the photos that we use for selections for their wall art and their thank you notes. So this one, oh, and yeah, we'll probably put that in the photo album too. So we're going to select that as a panorama. And then these are all the portraits that I want to be their favorites. So again, you just hit that F button and it will mark it as a favorite by filling out that little red heart. Now that we've gone in and organized all our photos, it is time to design our album and our wall art and our thank you notes. And the beauty of using Fundy Designer for that is that you can do that all at the same time. We're going to start by going into the design wizard. Okay, but while we're in the design wizard, I am going to show you what you can do to set up a template so that the next time you design an album, you can skip all of this and you can just go and click one button and it will design exactly what you want. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to select our album company. We use Dreambooks Pro because they offer a crazy amount of options for us to customize our albums. And because our brand is so focused on creating unique artwork through the images that we capture for our clients, we want to extend that to our print products as well. So we want to make sure that their albums don't look like anybody else's. And Dreambooks Pro has some really, really cool options that allow us to do that and personalize their albums in a way that other album companies don't. So I like to start with a 10 by 10. The album that I include in our package is an 8 by 8, but this is just me kind of dropping that that hint that maybe they want to upgrade to a larger one. I'm not going to do a cover because I do those separately in Photoshop because I get a little bit extra. Now for the design style, you can use Album. Album's great. You can download these from Fundy, but I have already set up, I basically sat down and I created my ideal dream wedding album because there are certain layouts that I use consistently. And then I save that as a design style. And that way I can come in here and I can just click JLP wedding album and it knows that it's going to take the design set that I created and base the initial design of this album off of that, which is going to save me time because it's already using all of the layouts that I consistently use. Now, we're not going to use the entire collection for this design. We're going to do 4 stars only. Remember, that was when I was in Adobe Bridge starring the images. This is why, because I want to click 4 stars only. That way it's not pulling from all of the images. Some photographers only pull in the images that they want to use for the album, but because I do live design with our clients, I want to have all of the photos already imported into Fundy because if they want one that I didn't have imported, then they're going to have to wait while I pull more photos in. So it's just a lot easier for me to have all of the photos in there, which is why this rating system is really important to my workflow. Image order, capture date, yep, I lay everything out as it happens throughout the day, and then I do like the 3:2 accent images. Now, okay, I'm going to change the number of pages that we're designing to 88 because that is the upper limit of pages that I can design with Dreambooks Pro, or that I can print with Dreambooks Pro and still use the thick paper, which I really like. I have gone higher than that. And when I go higher than 88 pages, if, it's a multiple day wedding, if the photos are just too epic to be contained in one album, once I get up past that 88 pages, I gift my couples an extra volume. So instead of just doing one album, I will break that into 2 albums. This shows the total number of images that I selected from my 4 stars. It's still quite a bit. We're not probably going to use that many, but then here I can pick how many I want as my minimum per spread and my maximum per spread. A lot of photographers are going to say 15 is too much, and that's cool because that's too much for them. I have certain instances where I will put more photos on a spread, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. We've selected all of our album options. Now we're going to come over to wall art. So now I'm going to pick my print company. We like to use Bay Photo Lab. And then I always pick metal prints because with our vibrant style of photography, our photos look best printed on metal. And part of my job as a photographer is to guide our clients to print their images in a way that's going to make them look the best and make them really stop people in their tracks when they walk into their house and see these photos. So I typically tend to try to steer my clients toward metal prints. I won't say no to canvas or framed, but this is what I recommend. And it's also what we use in our own house. For the design style, just like with the album, I actually have put together my own wall art collections and saved them as a design style. So I'm going to select my J. La Plante wall art. So that's already set up in the sizes that I offer. And instead of entire collection, we're going to go down to the favorites. Remember, we went through when we put the little hearts on the images, on the portraits that we wanted. This is why it's going to make designing our wall art a lot easier. Thank you cards. We like to include thank you cards for our clients. And the card that I typically do is the 4 by 5.5 horizontal, and then I do a top fold. And so I can select all of that here. I do use the thank you design styles that I downloaded from the Fundy Design Library. And again, we don't want the entire collection because we're going to get, the ring bearer picking his nose for one, which is fine. I'd put that on a thank you note, but we're going to pick from the favorites. So that's the same group of images that we're pulling from for the wall art, which are typically the portraits, which is usually what people put on their thank you notes. I've set up my album, my wall art, and my cards in the way that I usually, like 99% of the time, start my designs out. And to save myself some time so that I don't have to do this ever again, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to save it as a new preset. I'm going to click save. I'm going to say JLP Wedding Consult. And then I'm going to hit OK. And then you can see it's there. And you can see I already did that. So I have 2 of them now. They're the exact same thing. I'm not going to hit Design Project right now because I want you to see how this works with the preset. So I've gotten that preset set up, and then let's say I'm opening this up for a new wedding. I click Design for Me instead of the Design Wizard, okay? And then I come here and I select my preset template right here, JLP Wedding Consult. And it's all those selections that I just spent that time walking you through. It's remembered all that. So I can just click Auto Design Now, and it's going to do my album, my wall art, and my thank you cards. It took me like 3 minutes to set that up, maybe a little bit longer because I was explaining every single step, but this is what's going to save me that time in the future. All right, so it auto designed all of my pieces of art, so the album, the wall art, and the thank you cards. And we're going to start with the album. Okay, so as you can see, the ones that I selected as panoramas, it did as panoramas. It used the designs that I typically like to do. So we're already like 80% of the way there. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to make a couple of changes here because obviously this is not the kind of thing that I can give to my clients as a layout. Okay, I'm not going to do that in front of you guys. So I'm just going to open their actual album that I designed. Okay, so now I have gone through, I've made all of my changes, all of my edits, and I just want to walk you through a little bit the way that I focus on designing an album. I like to imagine it as watching a movie. And so when we start out with the movie, you're going to start out with an establishing shot that kind of gives you an idea of the feel of the movie without giving you a ton of the details. And so for this one, we spent all that time out in nature. It was in this like woody camp type environment. And so I wanted to bring in some of that texture. And, we're looking out for photos like this on the wedding day that we can use to establish the feel of the wedding. And then I have their names and the date because I do think that it's important to have that somewhere in the album. And the way that I design my covers, sometimes they're a little more abstract. They aren't all that more traditional name and date on the cover. Sometimes we're going to do a topographic map, or maybe we do a map of the night sky, or maybe they, like this bride in particular, she's an artist and she designed a lot of the artwork that went into their printed materials. And so for their album, she had a little logo designed, and that's what we used on the cover. But it didn't have their names and it didn't have their date. And this is important to have in case someone, decades down the line after they're gone picks this up. I want them to have that context of who this was and when it took place. So we start with this establishing shot and the opening credits, if you will, and then we kind of move in a little bit. And I still am looking for those details, the thing that give the vibe of the wedding day without necessarily bringing people into the photos quite yet. And then as we continue flipping through, then you're introduced to the characters, and I just lay it out the way that things happened throughout the wedding day. Now, I know a lot of photographers will say that it's a faux pas to put this many photos onto a spread. I like to use this to help with that idea of pacing. Again, if we're thinking about this as a movie, this is maybe a montage section. This is the fun and games time in the morning. You see people working out, playing tennis, playing basketball. It's a very active time. And so it's okay to have these a little bit smaller because it kind of increases the feel of the energy of the spread. Okay. And then I'm going to go down to fewer photos than as we move into getting ready. Or this is a great one. So the bride grew these marigolds in her garden, and I knew I wanted to feature these on one spread and really bring out the yellows and the oranges because she really liked these beautiful, rich, warm, vibrant colors. So again, fewer photos on this one too. Again, just like slow down the pacing a little bit and bring you into that feel of this moment where she was she's smelling the marigolds. They're trying to figure out how they want to arrange this on her hat. And her friend was actually the florist. And so they're working together on this project that was very personal to her. So this is a moment, this is a quote unquote scene that I want to make sure that we're including in the album. All right. So then we do getting ready, and then we come to portraits. And portraits, again, I want to really slow down the pacing. So instead of having, 12 photos on a spread like I did with a montage type spread, this is going to be just one photo on one spread because I really want it to stop people and just make them say, wow. And what else? Then we move into the ceremony. And with the ceremony, not only do I want to show walking down the aisle, saying vows, I'm also doing my close-up shots. I want to really hone in on the characters. So I want to get one of each of them during the ceremony that I can put on alternating or on opposite pages like this. And then similarly, I also want to get a photo that was of the whole ceremony from further back. This one maybe isn't quite the perfect example. I think more like this. So not only do I want, a photo, sorry, a spread like this, where, for this spread, it's like the bride, that was her view of the groom. For this spread, that was the groom's view of the bride. Here, I'm also giving them the view that their guests had. So I want a nice wide photo of the ceremony site so that they know what it felt like. For this one, normally I do that as a full spread, but I really wanted to capture the height of these trees because check those things out. So this one necessitated a vertical, and then we kind of filled it in over there. Okay, so then after the ceremony, we moved into fun and games. Usually I transition to the reception through a spread with a bunch of detail photos. This way, it kind of takes you from the end of the ceremony into now we're going to go and party and have fun and play games. Again, this is another one where it's like I'll go up to 15 photos for a reception dancing spread because again, I want to keep that energy up. I want it to feel like there's a lot going on and so that people as they're flipping through the album really feel the upbeat, energetic nature of the reception. And then we slow it way down again because now we have all those amazing night sky photos. And so these portraits with the couple, these were the last things we did at night. And so I really want to end on that like much slower fade out. So after all the craziness, then everything kind of drops back. And that is basically the arc of how a wedding day goes. And this one I added a little extra. We had this final image as we were going away or like leaving the property where you can kind of see where they were partying, all this lit up, and you have it's actually it looks like a shooting star, but it's a satellite, and you have the galactic core of the Milky Way, and this is just sort of your end credit scene. So this couple have a young child. It's this little rascal right here. He was hilarious. He was the one who's dressed as a fox for the ceremony. He was the little ring bearer, I guess ring fox. But when I'm working with parents, I want to be really sensitive to how much available time they have. And, as anyone who is a parent knows, you don't have a lot. So I give them options. We start with this, which is my gigantic album. I call it the director's cut. I straight up stole that from Jeff Tisman. If you guys don't know him, he is a fantastic person and an amazing photographer. Go check out his work. Also a Fundy user. But I like the term director's cut because it goes back to laying out the album kind of like you would imagine a movie. So the director's cut is my selection. If I had no restraints, this is what I would do. But when people have kids, they don't have a lot of time. And so for this couple in particular, I wanted to give them a few more options. So it's really easy in Fundy Designer to come over here and click this little button. And what that's going to do is it's going to duplicate the album. And so I wanted this couple asked for options to see what a 20-page album, 30-page, and 40-page would look like. So I simply duplicated my director's cut. And then I could come in and I could cut full spreads. I could take photos out. I can move things around, but I'm starting with something that was already built so I don't have to start from scratch for this whole thing. That's going to save you a lot of time if people want to see different variations. Now we're going to come over to the wall art, and this is what Fundy Designer made for me. So it's already created artwork in the sizes that my packages are offered in. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to kind of adjust the rooms. And I do this because my wall art packages are structured around the size and type of room so that people can pick which room they want it to go in, and then I can advise them from there, which means that my smallest packages tend to be like hallways and little entryways. And that way they can visualize, okay, here's what a small wall art package would look like if it were in one of these small things. And then it goes from small to medium, large, and then extra as fuck, which is my biggest package. So then I want to make sure with these larger packages that we're picking big, impressive rooms. So a lot of times that's bedrooms or it's living rooms. And then I just come in and I will change some of these around. Let's actually come in here and I want to do this star photo in the middle. Actually, I want to do this. No, I want to do this photo in the middle. Oops. There we go. And then for the small ones, let's do them in black and white. So we're gonna do one of the star photos in black and white. And then where's my other? Okay, I love this one in black and white. That's a good one. Let's go find a photo of the little kiddo. And actually, I like this detail photo a lot of just the wet footprints. So we're gonna put that there. And then I know I have the one photo of their kid that I want to do. This one where he was watching the workout of his dad. Okay, so then there is our wall art, and I just come in and I can make a couple of different changes here and there. A lot of times it's just sort of moving it so that it makes a little more sense. But 90% of what was done just with that one click. And then finally, we have all the thank you cards. So we can come in here to thank you card, and sometimes I'll make that a little bit smaller, maybe move that up here. Oops. Just so you're aware, you do have to make sound effects while you're doing this. So you have to do a little like boop. That really helps Fundy run a lot better. So make sure that you are using the appropriate sound effects when you're designing things. This one I selected because the bride created a lot of this stuff on her own. Like I mentioned, she was an artist. And so these kinds of details were very important to her and the kind of thing that she might want to see on a thank you card. Let's take a look at another one and maybe. So I like to lean toward the thank you cards that have full photos because this is a chance for us to really feature our work that's going to get in front of a lot more eyes because they'll send these to all their guests. Their guests might put them on the fridge, and it's just a great way to kind of show off what we can do. With this one, I kind of like how they're hiding in that A, but I don't love it. So instead, I'm going to pick this photo. So we have these stars and they are down there at the bottom. I'm gonna just adjust this a little bit, zoom in just a skosh, and then move. Nope, I didn't want to move that one. I'm gonna zoom in just a skosh, and then I want to move them down so that they aren't just quite touching that O. So I just do some small tweaks like that. And these are the thank you notes that I will show to my clients during their design consult. So there you go. That is my workflow with Fundy Designer and Dreambooks Pro, both of whom make it amazingly easy for me to create really unique works of art for my clients that they are going to treasure for the rest of their lives. For more great hints, join the Storyteller Fundy Designer Facebook group. Fundy hops in there all the time and will drop little hints and tips and tricks. And some of them, and we've been using this for years, and sometimes he'll leave a little hint and I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't even know it could do that. So, even if you are an expert user, there's still always something new to learn to make your workflow a lot easier. It's also a really great place for people to share their favorite features and share tips and tricks on how they do in-person sales and how they increase the amount of money that they are making without a whole lot of extra work.